Hello and welcome to another installment of SuperConnectivity. I am your host, Charlie Esser, and with me as always is...
Phil Parrish.
Great to have you, Phil. Okay, so we are recording this on Friday, July 17th, and I don't think either one of us has seen Ant-Man yet.
Nope.
We both work for a living, so we are. This is our anticipation of Ant-Man podcast, and there is a lot to anticipate. There have been some good reviews and some middling reviews, but so far, the budget, the estimates for the film are that it's going to be number one, which we were worried about. We were worried that Amy Schumer. Well, I was worried that Amy Schumer was going to knock it out, but. Although Amy Schumer's going strong too, so I don't know. This could be neck and neck. And you got those minions, those dang minions in the background. So it's a bit of a horse race, quite frankly. And but my prediction is, here's my prediction. My prediction is Ant-Man won't have a drop off next week. That it's going to have a good opening weekend. It might be number one. But its drop-off is going to be way less precipitous. Because I think it might hold... If it hits number one this week, I think it's going to keep number one next week. And I think it's probably going to have a much smaller drop-off than what you normally have been having with these summer blockbusters, where you have like a 40 to 50% drop-off. I'm thinking at most a 20% drop-off, maybe 30% for Ant-Man. Because I think, sight unseen, this is going to be a film that gets a lot of strong word of mouth after the initial push. This is based on a couple of really, really keen and I think really key reviews and views out there in the comic book movie sphere. So don't have too much to say because there is still a lot we don't know about what's going on in the movie. But it is exciting. We have been told that when they go to the microverse, to keep a sharp eye out because we might see someone that we'll recognize in the microverse. I don't know if that means it's going to be a Micronaut. I don't know if that means it's going to be Doctor Strange or Eternity, or if it's going to be Janet Van Dyne, who, rumor has it, is lost in the multiverse in this storyline. So we're going to have to keep our eyes and ears out. Maybe it's Spider-Man. I don't know.
No.
I still say it would have been great to have a Spider-Man Ant-Man crossover because, hey, they're both, arthropod men, and
maybe in Civil War.
Maybe in Civil War, yeah. Because that one thing they say about Civil War, it does not have enough superheroes in it. But we do know this is out there, so I'm not going to call this a spoiler. We do know that the Falcon is in Ant-Man. And it does seem like it's more than just an after-credit scene. What they basically have described it as in the run-up is that most heist films have a pre-heist heist as part of it, where they have to get some MacGuffin before they go after the big MacGuffin. And in this, they say, well, there's an old Stark facility where we can get the pre-MacGuffin at. And but then they find out that it's actually been turned into the new Avengers compound, and that's when they run into the Falcon. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be exciting. And since that's not an after credit scene, that leaves us wide open with what will be our after credit scene. Then There's two.
Yeah,
you've heard this. Oh goodness.
Huh?
I wonder if it's that lab assistant Paul Palmer or whatever it is, or if it's going to be something else, or maybe it's just Thanos saying, "I'm still working on it."
Or the Hulk.
Have you heard a Hulk rumor?
No, I haven't heard anything, but I'm just saying we don't know where he went.
Don't know where he went. I think he went to Mali. Quite frankly, I think he's on an island somewhere, sipping coconut milk and relaxing, chillaxing, being a little castaway.
Hulk want another umbrella drink.
Yeah. All he needs is a hammer, a hammock, and a coconut tree, and he will be happy. So, yeah, not a lot to say about Ant-Man besides that, I don't think.
You know what? I just got a text message. My one buddy just saw it. He didn't like parts of it, but he's not a big comic book fan. He did say Judy Greer, Haley Atwell, and Michael Pena were in it, and they were all good.
Oh, yeah, yes. Judy Greer. I know that name, but I can't place who that is. In fact, I've like seen stuff with her recently, and I still can't place her. But but I knew Michael Pena. Michael Pena. They say he steals the show in it as Hank's sort of heist buddy, his fellow partner in crime.
Oh, you mean Scott?
Oh yeah, Scott Lang's heist buddy. And of course, Haley Atwell's in there as Agent Carter from the Pym days, Pym Adventures, and so that's exciting. We've got some great characters there, great people that we all love to see. One other thing we've heard is that when we go to Hank Pym's house, we got to keep our eye out for Easter eggs. There's supposed to be a lot of Easter eggs in there, both of just items that have been miniaturized and hopefully maybe an Ultron head somewhere. Well, I guess no, they can't do Ultron head at this. Can't do an Ultron head, Rassafras. Because Tony Stark invented Ultron now.
What about Jocasta?
Oh, well, actually no, because we saw that Jocasta was actually one of Tony Stark's other AIs that he had laying around.
Yeah.
When he put in Friday, there was also Jocasta. So, yep, we'll have to think of something else that Hank Pym might have. So, maybe just a big egg. That's Egghead's egg. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not worried about this film. I'm looking forward to. Right now, I'm trying to plan how I'm going to get there because since my car got destroyed a couple weeks ago and I had to turn back in the rental car, and now I'm without a car. I've got to figure out how I'm going to get to the movie theater to see it once by myself and then once again with the boys, because I like to go see it once by myself first, then see it with the boys. But so that's our big goal. I'm going first thing in the morning. Yeah, I may just do that. May just hop a bus and take it downtown and go see the Ant-Man, because it's going to be exciting. Yeah, very, very, very exciting. Films that aren't out yet include the Fantastic Four. Not a lot to say about it right now. They've managed to dampen what enthusiasm I was starting to get for it. So if that was their plan, I guess, well, that accomplished it. I kind of get the feeling Fantastic Four is going to be like Amazing Spider-Man, where it's going to be a film that everyone's going to say, well, that was a good unnecessary take on a character. I guess it was passable, and okay. I'm just not terribly excited about it, but I'll go see it.
Well, remember how you said Dr. Doom looks fake? There was some article or something online that said he's gonna have two different looks.
Yes, I have heard that. So I guess maybe what I call the silly string armor, which is the armor that we've seen mostly, is basically I just kind of, it looks like someone took silver silly string and just sprayed it on him. Interesting thing about that actually is we don't get an origin of Dr. Doom in this. So whatever Dr. Doom's story is, we don't get it. We just, much like in the books when we first introduced Dr. Doom, he's just this person there, and we don't really know who he is. We don't get that whole Dr. Doom backstory. So, and that's interesting given that Dr. Doom was actually, in the Ultimate storyline, part of the experiment. He was part of the group that got their powers, and he got his powers through that. So the fact that Dr. Doom has some sort of powers but is not part of the experiment is interesting, and that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, how they play with that in the sequel, because they're already saying they're greenlighting the sequel, but of course they already had greenlit the sequel for the Hulk too. So greenlighting sequels is easy. It's actually making them that's the hard part.
We're talking about a X-Men Fantastic Four crossover.
Yeah, well, that is the rumor that Fox wants to build out their universe, and they would like to do that. I'm all for that, honestly. I would very much love to see more with the Fantastic Four, and I'd very much like to see more with the X-Men, and having those interactions is great. I would love it if they interacted with Spider-Man as well and the Avengers, which I think is where they'll eventually go with that. Like I said, I've said before that my long-term theory is that what we see with the Spider-Man deal, what we've already seen with the Hulk deal, that's sort of where they're building it, and that's how they're going to present it. And they're going to eventually get to that point where, yes, you'll have your Hulk film produced by Universal as part of the Marvel films, as you will have a Spider-Man produced by Sony as part of the Marvel films, and Fantastic Four and X-Men all part of the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe as they sort of trade off and move back and forth. If Marvel and DC can do an amalgam universe, I think we can certainly have this. Once Sony basically said yes, let's do this, I think that opened up the universe for what they can do, because Sony really Sony were the people who really had no reason to. I mean, The Amazing Spider-Man might not have done that well, but it didn't do horribly. It made its money back, and they still had their rights forever, and they could have just as easily rebooted it. They could have done any number of things. They could have, as I suggested, explored the Spider-Girl option, which I still think would have been really fantastic, especially if they played it off as a continuation of the Tobey Mcguire Spider-Verse story, so that Tobey Mcguire and I always forget who played what's her name? Mary Jane in that series.
Kristen Dunst.
Kristen Dunst, yeah. So you do Tobey Maguire and Kristen Dunst with a little teenage Mayday. I thought that would have been a really great storyline to explore, and given Sony a really interesting universe of heroes to explore in the MC2. Although exactly what rights they could have had to the MC2 is an interesting question. So, but I thought that would have been very interesting to explore. But they're not doing that. They're sticking with the Spider-Man concept, and I guess that's fair enough. But we're gonna have to see where they go with it.
We haven't discussed Spider-Man wise, the new Aunt May.
Oh yes, in the in the ongoing prospect of younger, hotter female characters playing old women. Because hey, Tilda Swinton, she's ancient, and when I think elderly aunt, I think Marisa Tomei. Yes, that is the elderly aunt that it just got weird, is what I'm gonna say. Of course, in the Ultimate Universe, they do play Aunt May sort of younger and hipper, and we've seen that in the in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, where she's actually has dated the Agent Coulson character, who is of course the Clark Gregg actor. So so that seems standard and appropriate. I'm going to say, and really not for nothing, Marisa Tomei has been around for a very long time as an actress, so she actually may be elderly, just doesn't look it because she's in Hollywood. I don't know. I know that she believably was dating Joe Pesci in My Cousin Vinny, and that was like 400 years ago when My Cousin Vinny came out. Because when was that? That had to be in like the 90s. I know that. So that was 20 some odd years ago. So yeah, very believable that she could have a teenage nephew that she is raising with her Uncle Ben. Now I wonder who is playing Uncle Ben, because we don't have who the Uncle Ben is yet. And it'll be Joe Pesci.
Is that going to be a name? Because they're really not doing an origin, do they? They're just doing flashbacks, aren't they?
Well, I don't know. Well, like I said, we really have no idea what they're doing. All we know for sure is that Marisa Tomei is Aunt May, and Spider-Man is an actual teenager, and Because that's the thing is they say that the actor playing Spider-Man is in Civil War. They don't say that Spider-Man is in Civil War. They don't say that necessarily that he's going to be Spider-Man during Civil War. So any number of things could happen in that. We could just have the actor as Peter Parker in it. We could have, I would think it'd be very cool just to see Clark Gregg as the principal of his high school. And for what it's worth, Clark Gregg and Chloe Bennett are searching out young, superpowered individuals in the Shield story next season. So, who knows? As I've said, I'm very much looking forward to seeing Druid and I think his name is Johnny Blaze's kid in that. So that's gonna be exciting.
All right, I looked it up. You want to know Marisa Tomei's age?
Sure.
50.
Really? So she's ancient, just like Tilda Swinton. She might as well be, she might as well be the living mummy, Might as well be Khonshu, apparently. Apparently that is what Marvel is of the opinion of. She is she and Khonshu have dated. No, I do not necessarily see, although, they could have her do one of those stylish gray cuts that are very, very big among women who are not actually gray, but they dye their hair gray. That's a very, very big trend right now. But, it's one of those things when you're thinking Betty White and they go Marisa Tomei, you're not quite sure if that's, although for what it's worth, like the original Aunt May has gotten younger over the years because, they basically started her at like 60 and realized they had nowhere to go. So
I thought she was older than that when they started. She seemed like it.
Yeah. Well, she was a frail and elderly aunt who was always on the prone of another heart attack, which is why Peter felt he could never tell her his secret because he was so afraid the shock would kill her, which, for what it's worth, she's been attacked like several times by Dr. Octopus and then dated him. I think if she was going to die of shock, it would happen by now. Sometimes I think Peter just doesn't think these things through. Although, as we said in the most recent Spider-Man, when he saves her, it's like you really get the feeling that she knows. You want to not tell her that's fine, but she's well aware that you're Spider-Man, Peter Parker. You're not fooling anyone. And speaking of the actual Marvel comics, we are now getting our solicits and previews for the post Secret Wars world. And we had our whole discussion of the covers. Now we're getting more information on what's going to be in the storylines. It's interesting where we're going and what we're going to be seeing. Not quite sure where I want to go with this.
I just wonder. I think I said to you the one day. I wonder.
Yeah.
They're going to have to rewrite the universe somewhat, maybe, because they said Matt Murdock's secret identity is going back in the bottle. I guess because they said he's back in New York because he got disbarred because everyone knew he was Daredevil, but now no one knows his identity.
Yes, and now he's working as a prosecutor, which is interesting. Although, as I believe it's Charles Soule, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Soule or Soule, who is also a lawyer. As he said, he always felt it was a little weird that, here he was a defense attorney, and at the same time he's also a vigilante. Although I'll say this much, it's a lot weirder for him to be a vigilante and a prosecutor because then, Daredevil going out and gathering evidence, he is working as an officer of the law in a sense, and so he is supposed to be getting all of his warrants and all of that nonsense. So, I'm not quite sure how they're going to balance the prosecutorial thing. I'm thinking where they're saying his secret identity goes back in the bottle. I think it's going to be like he said in as we said in the book that that it's Matt Murdock who dies. That Daredevil goes on, but Matt Murdock dies, and maybe when he's being a prosecutor, maybe he's working as Mike Murdock, or maybe maybe he's like not being although I think most people are like, well, no, you look a lot like Matt Murdock. Although actually there was a storyline in Daredevil years ago where Matt Murdock pretends to be his fun-loving identical twin Mike Murdock, I believe, and I believe it was Mike Murdock, or maybe it was Dave Murdock. I don't know.
It was Mike.
Yeah, but that he was his identical twin brother, and he's and this was his big way to convince people that he, I think it might have even been that, like, I can't even remember exactly what it was, but like maybe like that he wanted everyone to think that Mike Murdock was Daredevil, but he wasn't Daredevil, or it was one of those convoluted, this is how I'll keep my secret identity. I'll wear a purple costume this week, and then a red one next week, and distract people from Dick Grayson's broken arm, because...
Yeah, he wanted everyone to think Mike was Daredevil, but then he killed off Mike, and then Daredevil was still around.
Yeah, these guys, they don't always... it's...
The 60s.
It's not always... the 60s. Comic books in the 60s. What are you going to do? But, so that'll... and that's interesting. He also has a sidekick who, we thought, is it Gambit? Is it, Nomad? No, it's actually just another brand new character. I wonder if they're going to give him the name Ronin, but they haven't said what his name is going to be. So far, he's just a guy from Chinatown who's taking on ninjas alongside Matt Murdock. So, could be interesting, could be cool. Of course, we have Daredevil the series coming back. We're getting our promos for that now. That's going to be interesting. We haven't really heard anything about the story, but we do know that Elektra will be in it. The Punisher will be in it. And we haven't heard on Bullseye yet. There was some talk about Bullseye, but the person that they were talking about was not cast as Bullseye, so we don't have a Bullseye yet. Which is interesting, to get an Elektra without a Bullseye. But you know what? Maybe we could actually have a little growth in story for Elektra for once, instead of just have her come in and then I am Matt's long lost love. Now I'm dead. Which was essentially the original, Daredevil Elektra storyline, was basically, she was brought in as his long-lost love, and then she dies, just so that we can have a constant fight with Bullseye forever, because he killed her, even though she came back like a week later.
Maybe
what are you going to
build her up her character in season 2, and then kill her off in season 3.
Well, of course, that's the thing, is that they can kill her off, and then they can bring her right back, And in fact, that's probably what they'll do. They will kill her in... they'll kill her at the start of season 3, but then she'll be back, because she's going to get all resurrected by the Hand, because we know that they're going to be bringing in more mystical stuff. That was actually one of the things that was kind of interesting, where they've been debating on the Iron Fist series, is how mystical do they want to get? How far into the weeds of the Marvel Universe do they want to get with Iron Fist? And to me, it's like, go all the way, go big or go big or go home. And I think that should be Marvel's mantra here, because I think that it's done them well so far, Although and I guess it's go small or go home, but they're going into the Doctor Strange storyline. They're pegging Doctor Strange or referencing Doctor Strange, I guess, in the Ant-Man film, when they're dealing with the microverse and the pan-dimensional stuff. So, I say go for it. I'm looking forward to it. They already have, they haven't really mentioned Kunlun yet, or the other countries in that sort of pocket dimension farther away than China, as they said. But it would be interesting. It'll be interesting to see them get into that more mystical stuff. And, once you go to Elektra, I think that you're going to have to start dealing with that, because you're going to have to bring her back to life. Because the whole point of Elektra is she dies and then she comes back, and that's what's interesting about that storyline. And so, I think that they're going to have to go there. And as I've always said, they've always been dealing with this stuff to that extent. They've always been bringing the mystical into the quote unquote scientific universe. They say it's science, but it's always mysticism. It's always the emotions that lead the powers. and you have to be a good man to be Captain America. It is Banner's hidden rage that unleashes the Hulk. So I do think that they've already got that mind-body mystical connection going on. And as I've said, I know they're not taking my script for it, but free of charge, Marvel. I think that should be something with Doctor Strange. Is that as a neurosurgeon, he's the guy that's why he was on Hydra's radar, because he had figured out this link between superpowers and the mental state, and that would be awesome. You don't even have to give me credit for that, Marvel. One last thing. That was what I really wanted to talk about. So, as I say, in SuperConnectivity, I do like to talk about everything in the Marvel Universe, from the comics to the cartoons to the movies to the TV shows. And one of the things that's very interesting right now, if anyone who's watching the Avengers cartoon series right now, they've been dealing with the Squadron Supreme. And what I really love about the Squadron Supreme in this storyline is that they are essentially the Squadron Sinister, except they're not. They aren't we're from the world where everyone's evil, and so we're the evil version of the Squadron Supreme. I'm Hyperion, and I'm just a really evil Superman. It's that they were the superheroes, the mightiest heroes of their world, but that their ultimate power essentially corrupted them, leading to the destruction of the world. And they want to be the rulers of this world, but they also, in their own way, see themselves as heroes. They're not like the Squadron Sinister, where we are criminals and we get a cake. They are very much, we are the heroes, and we want to save the world from itself through totalitarian power. And I think that is a very interesting take on the Squadron Supreme storyline. Now we're getting a new Squadron Supreme in the 616, featuring, essentially heroes from Lost Worlds. And we're going to have Hyperion, who lost the world to an incursion. We're getting Dr. Spectrum from the Great Society, who lost her world actually to the Illuminati, when Doctor Strange basically conjures Cthulhu on their world to destroy it. And we're also going to get Thundra, who is from a future world that at one point was destroyed, where she is the refugee from a future universe. And it's interesting to see how that's going to play out, because they are these incredibly powerful superhumans who are from this lost world, who all, in their own way, saw their old worlds as utopias and are sort of trapped in this, Avengers world, which is not a utopia. And I wonder if they're going to be, able to accept that, even though they could try to take over this world and recreate their own utopias, if that's going to be a running temptation for them. So I'm very intrigued by that. I'm very intrigued by that. The idea of superheroes who want to do good and wind up doing evil because they are corrupted by the fact that, to put it simply, we just don't listen. They want to take care of us. We just won't do as we're told. And so what else can they do but rule over us with an iron fist? Just like Dr. Doom and his battle world. I think that's enough connections for this week. Phil, where can they find you if they want to say, why do you listen to that idiot every week?
No. If you want to talk Marvel or DC with me, you can email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I'm at nightwingpdp.
Okay, and if you want to talk Superhero Squad or Teen Titans Go with me, or anything else that's out there. Speaking of which, real quick thing. They took down the DC animation logo from Warner Brothers Studios. Mm-hmm. And, it was in the news today. They're dismantling it. They might replace it with something bigger and better and DC related, but people were like, wow, that's really shocking, because it had become very iconic in recent years for Warner Brothers to have these, they had, Batman and Superman and the Teen Titans Robin and all of these, Warner Brothers cartoon characters as this logo, and now it's gone. But anyway, you can talk to me about any of these things at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com, or follow me on Twitter at Charlie Esser, and of course like the Facebook page and leave messages there so we can talk back. And then you can connect with us again next week. I've always been Charlie Esser, and with me as always what has been
Still Phil Parrott.
And we'll connect with you again next week. Thanks for listening, everybody.